Okay, this is episode 12 of Impostor Syndrome, and today we have.
Laura Bugge.
Okay, I was a sneaky because I didn't know how to properly pronounce your last name.
Nobody does. Actually, the way that we pronounce it now, like my immediate family, is not the correct pronunciation, and I won't tell you what that is because it's embarrassing. That's why we don't pronounce it correctly.
Is it Bugge?
No. No.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, okay, is it Bugge? Is it Bugge? Buggy? Biggy? Whatever. Okay.
None of the above.
Okay. So it's something really weird.
No pressure because everyone gets it wrong, so you're good.
Okay. So, we'll just start out. What do you do in the entertainment industry?
In the entertainment industry, right now I'm really getting my feet wet and I guess poking and prodding in what I like, what I don't like. Because I really don't have a strong background in it. I'm just forming an interest in it within the last couple of years. So.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember you had told. I figured because you were in Tom's circle, you were like already kind of entrenched in it, but.
Yeah.
So, because you do like theater, right? And.
Yeah. That's also when I was in my early 20s. I was very much into theater, and then I moved away from that. Did a couple of other interests, developed those, and then now I'm slowly getting back into theater, and developing myself there again.
Okay. And so I know you're in Philly, so there's I think you told me there's a more decent sized theater scene down there than I thought originally.
Like again with that, well, is this whole thing gonna be recorded, or are you gonna edit it?
No, I don't edit. I told you that beforehand. I don't edit it.
Okay. Well, right now, my friend Joe he's really helping me get into the scene with like Lincoln University and things like that. Like he's really helping me out in that scene or in that sense. But in Philly specifically, I'm really working with more like the production side. There's actually a feature that I sort of helped with.
Okay.
I was there for a few days. I wasn't there for the whole entire production, but that trailer's coming out tomorrow. That's called The Arrangement. So that was really cool to be a part of. My friend Jen is one of the producers. She's acting in it. So she really helped me out there because she knew that I was interested in it. During the summer, she was telling me about this project that she was formulating, and she was a part of the whole setup of this project. And she was telling me about it while I was over in Europe. And just her telling me like who was going to be involved in it. And I was like, I want to be there so bad, but I don't know. Like at that point, this is like maybe back last June. At that point, it was way too early for me to know where I was going to be at the point where they were going to be working on it. So I couldn't really give her a yes or a no, like a definite time frame, because of what I was going through at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then timing happened and things worked out, so I wound up being able to work on it for a few days back in January. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And you said, so what's that film about? Are you even allowed to talk about it?
It's an ensemble, for sure. It's more of a. You just have to watch the trailer.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have to turn on my air conditioning. I was trying to tough it out so that there wasn't noise, but sorry, people. Listeners, you're just going to have to deal with it.
You might hear my dog whining in the background.
That's more welcome than a really loud air conditioner, I think. In fact, he can be on camera the whole time if he wants. Or she, whatever the... Okay, so yeah, from what I guess I misunderstood then when we first met. So I thought you were already like really in the
Oh
theater
no, like
stuff.
I've only been back in Philly since September.
Hmm.
So, and I was really like since September I've built up my massage clientele. Like that's really my life. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? Um,
Livelihood.
yes, thank you.
Yeah. That's okay.
Um, yeah, so that's really my bread and butter, which I wouldn't trade anything for. But like theater and that whole side of things, I'm slowly getting back into. So
Okay. And you're starting the podcast, your own.
yes,
So
yes.
that counts.
What was that?
That counts as entertainment industry.
Yeah. That's I'm so excited for that because I have I think really strong guests that are going to come on and give very diverse conversations. So that's really what I'm looking for.
What like mine has a pretty specific theme. What's yours?
Mine is going to be really all over the place, inclusivity. I was just talking to someone today about it, and I have someone who's going to come on, and she's Christian, but she's pro-choice. She has her sister's bisexual. She's very much on my team. And then on the flip side of that, I have someone who I'm blanking. Oh no, this is
No
um
pressure.
well, my brother Steven is going to be on it. I told you more about him at the networking event that we met at.
Is he the one I met, or is he the one that you're in
Yes, we went back to his apartment. Yeah,
Yeah.
Steven.
Okay.
He got. I just his story is just so amazing, where he's built himself up to where he is now.
Hmm.
I can't wait to tell his story because he had epilepsy when he was a child. He developed his own diet and like healed himself out of epilepsy. Like, how do you do that? He didn't use medication. It wasn't like a therapy thing. There was no medical assistance there. He's a CEO. He's a college professor. He works for the IRS. He's everything. Like, he's just amazing. So I cannot wait to have him on.
That's a bunch of different jobs that
I
seem very
know.
unrelated.
Yeah. like we're very similar in having very diverse interests. Like I love photography. I'm getting back into theater, massage therapy, the whole body healing itself mentality. Like I have a couple of different plates up in the air right now. I get that from him, like through and through, 100%.
I'm similar. I can't just do one thing at
Yeah,
a time.
that would drive me insane. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't sit behind a desk all day. I need to be out and doing 5 different things. And I think the more productive I am, the more quality comes out in my work. The more productive I am, for sure.
Although I don't know if you've had this struggle. I've noticed this in myself. Using productivity or being busy as the excuse to kind of like tricking yourself into thinking you're being productive, but you're not actually. Have you fallen into that trap before? Because I notice I do it.
A few times, like here and there, and then I notice it, and then I bring myself back out. And I also love that you're saying being productive, not being busy. I hate that term. Like I'm being busy. Like what does that mean? You can be busy like watching TV, like doing different things that are mundane and you're not actually producing anything, or you can be fruitful and be productive and actually there's an outcome of what you're doing in a positive way.
Mm. Yeah. So and the podcast starts next week, right? I think I saw you
Yes,
put
the
up.
21st.
All right.
June 21st, yeah.
You doing it weekly, bi-weekly, yearly?
I'm going to start weekly, and that's going to be a seasonal thing, so it's going to start on the summer solstice and then go from there.
So you think?
I think.
So when you say seasonally, you're only doing it in.
Like
so you're not
months,
doing it all year.
And then take a week off, 3 months, take a week off, things like that. So each season is going to be different. I'm going to have different cover art, different theme song, different things like that.
It's kind of like how an anime works.
Yeah, okay.
Too much anime, but they do that in anime. They change the theme song every season, which really is annoying.
Black Mirror.
What?
Every episode is different.
Yeah, I just started watching the new season yesterday, actually.
I only really saw the third season, and then I just lost my interest. So.
Oh, it's really good. It's some good stuff. It's very horrifying though. There's like every once in a while they have an episode that's actually heartwarming, but then some of them are like, holy shit. There's one off of season 4 called Crocodile that will just.
Okay. I think the last episode I remember was more of the social media aspect.
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard was in it. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That one was the last one I saw.
We're already getting there.
Yeah.
China's already kind of doing it.
Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's scary stuff. So
especially like on Instagram, I have definite love-hate relationship with Instagram.
Why?
Well, having the photographer background, and Instagram is more selfie central.
Yeah.
It just drives me insane. I mean, you do have the artists and the photographers that really build themselves up and they make Instagram their platform, but then everyone else is just, all you see is their face. Like they're not really showing you their life at all. There's no reality behind it. And I just feel like a definite disconnect with the people that really showcase their lives and what they're doing, what they're being productive with, and then people who like are showing you their food. I don't care. I want to see you. I want to see what you're doing.
Yeah. Although I gotta say, my friend put up something today that looked delicious. It was some Taiwanese food, and but it's not good.
Once in a while, not every single photo. Like
yeah,
yeah.
I know a few of those people. Yeah, but I mean, they all have their. Actually, Instagram was down today, so it's probably causing chaos on the internet.
Oh, was it?
Or it still is, I think.
Yeah, I was on there all day.
Oh, okay. I noticed that it was being weird, but yeah. Unfortunately, nowadays you have to be on every single one of them to be relevant.
Yeah, I mean Twitter, I will not touch at all. I maybe have 4 profiles, but as soon as I make one, I forget the password. Like I have to keep making another one. Like this is so ridiculous. I don't even like this. Why am I doing this? So.
Yeah, I only do it for marketing purposes. I mean, like, if I wasn't in the field that I'm in, I probably wouldn't be on social media at all.
Yeah. I mean, you're killing it with the whole Within Temptation post, liking your stuff and everything.
That was pretty fucking cool because they're one of my like I've been a huge fan of them forever.
Yeah.
So
same.
that made. Oh, you're a big fan of them too?
Yeah, for years.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I just got to see them for the first time back in March.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty sick. I was hoping that I could like squeeze it in a little bit and get them on here.
Yeah.
That'd be an amazing interview.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then one of the singers from Butcher Babies liked one of my recent posts too, so that was cool.
Yeah, them I'm not familiar with, but Within
They're-
Temptation, I was like, Michael, okay.
yeah. Butcher Babies, they got a following. I'm not particularly into them, but they're still kind of cool. They're a little too gimmicky for me.
Okay.
Yeah, they started out. It's they got two girl singers, but like they're like when they started out, like their whole thing was like that they weren't wearing shirts. They just had electrical tape over their nipples, and like it was too far for me in the gimmick territory. But their music's not that bad. Yeah, still cool.
I might think about looking them up if it crosses my mind one day.
Yeah. My sister loves them.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's funny. And I actually had just another one too because of Tom. It wasn't much. It was just we had a little interaction with an author that we follow on YouTube. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So. Well, I usually ask everybody the same question when it comes to this podcast. I don't know if you've listened to any of these yet, but the question is, how do you feel you hold yourself back in your business, in what you're trying to do?
Well, like I said, I'm very novice in the whole entertainment business realm. So I'm taking everything day by day and taking everything in, the good and the bad, the ugly, everything. Learning a lot from everyone that has that background and has that definite interest. Like, I'm just more an observer, trying to like figure out if I like this or not. I definitely don't have a clear mindset on any specific facet yet. So
So are you going full on with acting, or are you trying to get behind the scenes?
I think I'm more behind the scenes oriented. I was an extra once, and it wasn't really my thing. It didn't have the pull for me that I saw it having on other people. So I like yeah, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I have no interest in being on screen either, or up in front on stage.
Like, maybe in certain projects that would be interesting, but the one that I was on was just odd. That was back in Philly also. That was 2009. I was friends with the casting director, and he messaged me one day out of the blue, and he said, "What are you doing tomorrow morning?" I was like, nothing. And he was like, "Well, come down to Drexel Hill, and if you know anything about Drexel Hill, it's not a good situation." So he said, "Come to Drexel Hill by yourself and come see us, like come meet us on set. I'll give you the address and everything." And I was like, okay. So I brought my brother with me and everything, and like it was just a weird vibe. Like, I didn't like it at all. So that just really turned me off to set life. That whole machine of being on screen and waiting for scenes and doing things over and over again. That just wasn't for me.
And the potential of getting shot,
Yeah, that was in the back of my mind.
I'm trying to think, because I remember I feel like I was near Drexel. Is it a different spot?
What do you mean?
Well, like last time I was in Philly, I took the train in, and it got out near Drexel, like the college. Is that where Drexel Hill is, or is it a different spot of the city?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is 2009, so I don't remember what exact area it was, but it was definitely in Drexel Hill. It was like if you would equate it to like Williamsburg or Dumbo or things like that in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I can't give you like a street name or anything.
I don't know street names of anywhere. I
Yeah.
don't even know street names from where I grew up.
Yeah, it was like you take the the third right, if you pass the second street light on the left, you've gone too far.
That's right. There's a hobo there.
Yeah.
He's always there.
The one missing the hand will tell you the right way to go. Yeah.
Sounds like a Rush song.
Yeah. And even like my history in theater, I'm kind of torn there too, because there was, I think I told you about this either at the networking event or when we were together for my birthday. I was cast in Rent as Maureen, and and I was, the day I was going to the audition, my mom says to me, if you play that role, I'm not going to go see you.
Yeah.
So so I did
And feel free to elaborate, because I know this story, but
yeah,
you know, the listeners don't.
Well, I'm bisexual, and my mom has maybe 2 years before that found out that my brother is gay. My brother Steven. And she's devout Catholic, and I was the one that told her that Steven is gay because of the way that he had planned to tell her. Like the way that he planned to come out and everything just didn't sit well with me. So I was the one that told her that he was gay. And when I came out to her, she just thought that I was being very familiar with girls. She didn't take it as me being interested or romantically, sexually interested with women. She was just like, oh, it's normal for girls to like check out other girls, like what they're wearing and stuff like that. I'm like, that's not what I'm doing. Like, stop. So I told her, like 2010, I believe, was when Rent was on in Port Jefferson, Long Island. And and I told her the week leading up to the audition, I was preparing myself and everything. And I was like, I'm gonna audition for Rent. She's like, oh, what part are you gonna play? I was like, Maureen. And she just stopped in her tracks. She's like, if you play that part, I'm not gonna go see you. Like deadpan, right in the eyes, like finger in my face and everything. So with that, I left, went to the audition, got the part, did the play, and she didn't come see me. And the thing that really is the kicker is that I would have, had I known that she was in the audience, I know that I would have messed up somewhere, because my background, I also have a background in dance, and our recitals, we would have multiple recitals during the day, and the recital that she would be at, I would be more nervous, I would feel more pressure, and then the other shows during the day, when my family wasn't around, I was more assertive, I was more sharp. So for her not to be there, I was more of the actress that I meant to be in Rent, having her not there. And
it's funny to me. It's funny to me though, like you say, the way you just described that, it sounds like she's familiar with the play.
Yeah.
So like, if she has that much of an issue with, LGBT, why would she even have an interest in that play? Like, does she like that play?
Well, the fact that she's familiar with it,
familiar enough to know a character on the spot like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is 2010, and the movie came out 2005. The play came out in 94, and everyone knew about it. It was a popular thing. Like, she's very much into Broadway and things like that. So she was very familiar with, like, Cats, who has, like, a predominantly male cast. So she wasn't blind to any of that, but she also wasn't going to see any of those things because of that reason.
Yeah,
That's a tough one.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that was interesting to me was her reaction to you being bi, is that like
Yeah.
it seems like a very common thing that people don't treat bisexuality like it's a real thing.
Yeah. Like, oh, you're just confused. Like, no, I'm not. Like, right now, I'm dating a man and a woman, and they know about each other. Like, it's just a very open situation. And everyone's on the same page. Everyone's okay with everyone. Like, there's no animosity anywhere. So, where do people, I don't understand where people would come off and say that I'm confused about my sexuality, or there's any kind of confusion anywhere. Like, I'm sexually interested, sexually aroused by the both of them. So where's the confusion?
I
Like,
don't
I'm
know.
asking you this. Like, where's?
It's not
Yeah,
that
it just.
yeah.
It's a hard one, yeah.
I mean, when I was younger, it probably would have been. I wouldn't have gotten it, but
Yeah.
because I actually, funny enough, I mean, we had a similar upbringing and both having a very religious upbringing. I actually used to be very homophobic when I was younger. It wasn't until I hit my 20s that I kicked it. But
Yeah.
so maybe back then I wouldn't have gotten it. But,
Yeah.
but even when I was a homophobe, like bisexuality wasn't a complicated thing to me. Like I don't get it.
Yeah. I don't get that people don't get it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people in the LGBT community that are against it too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I mean,
the weird one.
Even as a polyamorous woman, I won't see eye to eye on everything with someone with a friend who's polyamorous. Like, every relationship is different. That doesn't mean it's right or wrong. That doesn't mean that what that person, like, what they're doing is wrong in my eyes. It just doesn't work for me. So someone being straight, I don't relate to them as well as someone who's bisexual, in that kind of aspect.
What aspect do you mean? Like,
Of
it's hard to
sexuality,
relate
like
to.
how,
Oh,
yeah, because I'm so I've been polyamorous since I was in high school,
yeah.
but I was more playing safe with just dating multiple men at one time, and then once I hit my 20s, that's when I really became more of myself and started realizing, like, no, I'm more attracted to women now, and I would flip flop back and forth and everything. Like, the last 2 years, I was really focusing on dating women. And my girlfriend Catherine, we met at this one, like, part-time job that I had, and we would be together. It would just be the two of us for hours at this job, and we got to know each other. And she was straight when we met, because that part of her hadn't been realized yet. And then the more time that we spent together, she was like, you know what, this feels right. Like, we should pursue this more. And at the time, I wasn't seeing any men at all, so I was just seeing her romantically. And then when I went over to Europe, she spent her summer with me. So, like, there's a very strong bond there between her and I. And now that I'm back in the States and back with, like, familiarity and the whole air of being fluid, the door has been opened for men to enter my life again, romantically and sexually. And once I told her that, she was very much on board. She was like, yes, this feels right. Do what you feel is right for yourself. I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be a part of your life. And I'll support you whatever you do. So now I'm, like, that door has been opened for someone very strong to enter my life. So I don't really hold myself back to any one thing. Like, I mean, because how I met like Schwan and how I was on Thomas's radio show and when he had it like years ago and everything was very much a fluke because 2015 I was working at Brooks Brothers, and I don't know if you're familiar with that store, but it's a high class predominantly men's clothing store, like high fashion and everything.
Okay.
Like suiting and things like that.
I definitely wouldn't be familiar with it.
Yeah. And this, like, we were out in Riverhead, that's where the store is, and one day the owner of Kleinfeld, where they shoot the show Say Yes to the Dress, he came into our store and like we helped him and everything like that, and then when he left he gave his card and he was like, this isn't bullshit, like I'm the owner of this store, I want you guys to come out and we'll give you a tour, we'll have lunch and everything. And my coworkers and I were like, yeah, okay, like whatever. And like the guy left and we checked him out and everything, like we Googled him and we were like, oh my god, holy shit, this guy's legit. So like we kept in contact with him and everything. And one day I happened to be on the phone with him and my coworker said, like, she mentioned this to me, but I was talking, so I didn't hear her say it since I was on the phone with him. She said, tell him about your photography. And he overheard her say that while I was on the phone with him. And he said, so when you come out, bring your portfolio. And I was like, okay. Like I was like, where the hell did that come from? So I did. And while my coworkers were having a private tour and everything by the owner's assistant, I was having a meeting with the production company of this new show that they were starting. And then they shot it all of summer 2016. So I was telling Thomas that one day, and he was like, I want you on my radio show. Like, we'll talk about that. So, like, that's my history with, like, the radio show, and that's really what sparked my interest in having a podcast and talking about, like, life and interest and what you're doing, what you're not doing, things like that. Like, just talking to people in general and getting their stories. So that's what really got the ball rolling there. And then a little derailment happened with my health and everything. So, but now that everything's back on track, I really want to start pursuing that, and the premiere is coming up shortly. So I'm excited.
All right. Well, it's going to be linked in here. We'll put and it's Sway Element is the name of it?
Sway Element Podcast.
Okay. So what is the meaning of that name? Because I'm confused by it.
Sway Element, like, I actually came up with that name during the summer of 2016.
Okay.
Like, it, to me, it represents fluidity, inclusiveness, just swaying with emotions, being open to everything, like not being shut off. Like, you're just not being a pushover, but just, you know, this feels right for me, this feels wrong, and knowing the difference between the two and pursuing something that's the element part, that brings light into your life. Like the combination of those two, I liked how those flow together. So Sway Element was my little baby idea.
And it sounds. You know, it's funny. The first thing I thought of when I heard it, it made me think of like a skater clothing brand for some reason.
Oh yeah.
Because there was Element back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was all into that culture at that time. If you remember the early 2000s, it was all that skater culture. Yeah. Well, I wasn't also sure if it was because you mentioned to me that you're Wiccan, so I didn't know if there was something there behind the title too.
I mean, yeah, there's elements of that in the Sway persuasion. Because like I was born and raised Catholic, but growing up we really weren't devout. until I was in 8th grade, and I wanted to be more involved in the church and everything. And then I got my mom very, I got my mom very involved, and then she really went full force. And
wow.
the more she would go to like mass and everything like that, the more events she would go to, the more turned off I became. And that started in 8th grade, but I had already in my mind become Wiccan at that point, because Stephen a few years earlier had been practicing Wicca. So I had that persuasion for a few years, and then I really made up my mind, like, this feels right for me. Like, I associate more with this religion, with this belief system, than what I'm seeing every day with like my mom doing all these things, and the whole belief system behind Jesus dying on the cross, and Christians believing that Jesus is their personal Lord and Savior. Like, I believe in Jesus Christ. Don't get me wrong. Like, just because I'm Wiccan, I'm not going to believe in angels or things like that. Like, I still do, but I don't associate him with any kind of higher power. I just see him as he was human. He existed.
A dude. Yeah.
Yeah, like a dude.
That's more or less what I think too. I mean, yeah. I know there's some historians, and I usually avoid religion on this podcast, but fuck it.
Yeah, right.
I'm hoping to actually get a YouTuber I follow on soon, so that's all going to be completely out the door. But yeah, that's kind of my viewpoint too. I know a lot of historians debate over whether Jesus was even a real guy. I don't know, but it doesn't bother me if he was.
Who knows?
Yeah, nobody knows.
if he existed, awesome. I love him. I love what he stood for. If not, it's a great metaphor. Like, that's as far as my thought process with Jesus and Christianity goes.
Yeah.
Everything else that I believe in as a belief system, as a sect in religion, if you want to call it that, is like the mantra of Wicca is as it harm none, do as you will. Mm-hmm. So that's just how I live my life. I don't harbor hate for anyone. I can't hold hate. Like, I don't know how to associate that with what I believe in. And I will tell you a story. Like, this is a very intense story.
Good podcast material.
Yeah. 2017, I was over in London, and because I had, in my mind, moved over to Ireland for like 2 years, which got derailed, and I'll touch on that a little bit. But I think June June 2016 was when the London attacks happened, the terrorist attack. Like, it was Manchester, and then like Ariana Grande's concert. You remember that?
I remember, yeah.
And then the next week, or like now it's phasey because I was there and I just blocked it out.
And there's been so many since.
Yeah, really. Like the London Bridge, there's a car that like drove into a bunch of people, and then terrorists stormed this one bar that I happened to be at.
Shit.
Yeah, I was at the front of the bar, so I saw everything. Like, I saw people being stabbed. I saw just this whole eruption of chaos, really. And what really stays with me is the fact that there was no communication between the men and women that were in the bar. It was just immediate reaction. Every woman that was in the front of the bar, like towards the front, was grabbed and shoved towards the wall. Like, all the men stormed in and like took these guys out and took over everything, and it was like I can't even put words to what that feels like or what I saw or anything, but when I tell people that story, one of the questions I always get is, were you filled with hate for the people that came in, like for the terrorists and everything? And I'm such an empathetic person that I felt more for the terrorists than the people that were attacked, if that makes any sense. Because these people have been brought up to believe that that act is okay. And just like the childhood that they must have had, like, this is how far like I think into these things. Like, my heart just goes out to them. Like, you've lost your life when you were a child because you've been brought up into the mindset that harming and killing is okay. So when you're a child, your soul is dead.
Yeah.
So like I was more of a bleeding heart towards the child that was lost than the adults that were in the room that were fighting these guys. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's really great that you have that mentality, because there's so many people nowadays that don't. Like, there's just, like, you see all this fighting between the right and left. Now we're getting into politics, yay! Two things I avoid on this podcast, but yeah, I mean, there's so much craziness between the left and the right now, and I see what's really disturbed me is like looking at Facebook and seeing people who I know are generally like very accepting, loving people. They have gotten kind of radicalized, like, and like they'll spout off all this stuff that's like very hateful, and I'm like, what are you doing? You've always been like this very like kind, loving person. What's going on here? So
like, what made the switch happen?
And it's just internet.
Yeah. And I think the crazy part is, well, aside from that, was when I decided to move over to Ireland. That whole year, because it was like a year process of me like moving things over there, and it was an ordeal. But in the back of my mind, I knew that something was going to happen, and it was a horrible feeling. Where it was so horrible where I would actually stop bringing up the fact that I was going over there. So people that knew that I was going over there would bring it up, and they're like, are you excited? Like, and then they would bring it up to other people, and then the other people would ask me. I'm like, stop asking me about this, because I'm already on the edge. I know something's going to happen. And I get over there, and I was living in Ireland, conflict-free, go over to England, and then this happens. And actually, the day of my going away party, this was a big one. The day of my going away party, my parents and I were in a car accident. And I was like, how do I read into this? Like, how do I wrap my head around that? Where all year I've been having this gut feeling that something is going to go wrong. And then the day of my going away party, that happens. Like, I don't know.
Was it a really bad accident?
It like the car was totaled, and like my dad, like, he was in the hospital for a little bit. But like I was able to walk away from it like fine and everything. Like, just like, have you ever been in a car accident?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. But
nothing super bad though. Only like little ones.
I hate to trigger something, but I was sitting in the back seat, and I had my sunglasses like hooked on my shirt, which is where the seatbelt was. So when we made impact, that's really what was sore for a few days, and for a couple of days I couldn't eat anything. Like, the thought of drinking or eating anything for a few days. Like, this was on a Saturday, and I couldn't. The first time I ate between like Saturday morning was like the following Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Like a full meal. Like I had pizza like that Monday and everything, but it wasn't like, it was just like I ate it slowly and everything. Like I took my time because everything hurt and everything made me nauseous.
Just from the way that your sunglasses impacted into your chest?
It was like, it's like the shock of everything, like because I was in the ambulance on the way to the hospital because they took my mom to the hospital to check her out and everything. And my dad actually stayed back at the accident site and the cops drove him home. So I stayed with her, and on the way there, the driver said to me, he's like, you're in shock right now and your body is going to be so tense. Like, you don't feel like you're in pain now, but you'll feel it tomorrow. Which was 100% correct. Like, I was in so much pain. I couldn't sleep, didn't eat for a few days. Like, it was intense.
Wow.
And then my mom wound up coming home from the hospital that night, and like earlier that night, my dad had he went into the hospital and he was in there for a few days. I think he something broke his sternum, broke a couple of ribs. I think that was the extent of his injuries. My mom was okay. She just had like bruising around the sternum, but nothing was broken. And actually, I thought that it was more serious of an accident than it was because of the way that the driver had moved over to her passenger seat. Because I got out of the car right away. I had my phone in my hand because my brother Kevin had texted me, and I was looking down because he had gotten to the bar that we were all meeting at. So I remember I was looking down, and all I remember hearing is the horn going off, and then I just see black. And then my mom starts apologizing. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I was like, "Why?" And then I like look up, and it's like all clouds, like all smoke and everything. So I was like, I just went into like panic mode. I got out of the car. I had my phone in my hand. I started taking pictures. I was like, I don't know what this means, but I started taking pictures of like my car, their car, and everything. And the way that our car hits the other car, because they actually blew a stop sign, and this is on a major highway. Like, do you know Long Island at all? Like, you're in Staten Island.
I know 475 and Westbury. That's
okay.
it.
So no. Okay.
I used to go up to Westbury all the time.
Yeah, we were on 25,
Okay.
and she was turning on the 25. She ran a stop sign. So we smacked into her and everything. And I remember looking at her, and she was bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that the way that she was reacting, I thought that someone was pinned. Like, we had hit in such a way that they were pinned like under the steering wheel. Because she was hysterically crying, leaning over the driver's side seat. So I was like, I don't want to look. I don't. I was like, yeah. Oh my God. I was like, we killed someone. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that she was the driver, and she had just moved over so quickly. By the time I got out of the car and was taking pictures, she had already been sitting there. And when you were in a car accident, what happened? Like, were there other people involved, or?
Yeah, on occasion, but any of mine, like, were all pretty minor. Like, I've never been in like a really intense accident, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, what happened at the hospital was my mom and I got there first in the first ambulance. I didn't know that when they brought her, they would wheel her into the same hallway. So, like, my mom is being, like, she's under triage and everything. She's being taken care of and everything. They wheel her past me in the gurney, and I'm just, like, sitting up against the window and everything, like, trying to not make any contact because I knew if I made eye contact with her, I would just fall apart. And I just started texting random people. I was like, okay, make me busy right now. Like, distract me. And they were like, why? Because no one had known what happened yet. And then I just happened to look up and she was looking right at me and she was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh my God. Like just that image will stay with me forever. Oh my God. Like just the look on her face. And the other thing that really bothers me is the fact that she was alone. Like I was with my parents, everyone was fine. Like they had injuries and everything, but they weren't dire. Like they weren't life threatening or anything. She was alone. Like that's what really gets me.
Yeah. And you said that they took your dad just home? They didn't take him to the hospital?
Because he kept saying that he was fine because he's like that stubborn personality. He's like, I'm fine, whatever. So they wound up taking him home, and then my brother and one of his friends came to the hospital. They picked me up, took me to the bar. I was like 2 hours late for my own going away party. And then my dad's cousin, who lives in the area, went to the house, picked him up, brought him, so that he was there for a little bit. And I could tell that he was shaken, but I didn't know the extent of what was going on internally. And then a few hours later, he was like, yeah, I should really go to the hospital. So Rich took him. And then Rich, my dad's cousin, took my mom home and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, it sounds like it wasn't that bad of an accident. At least as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my God. But just like being in that moment of like sheer panic, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I've never been through this before. Like, how do I act? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then actually, once I got to my going away party, I said hi to like a few people, and I was just numb the entire time. Like there are pictures that I'm in that I don't remember taking. But there was one person that we invited who, like, as soon as I saw her and hugged her, that's when I broke. Because a couple of years before, she had lost her son in a car accident. Like not a car accident, but I think like an ATV. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Like so once I saw her, that's when I just fell apart. I like stayed strong-ish until then, and then I was like, okay, now I can let everything out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one really bad one recently near my old hometown. It was actually a friend of mine's. It was like he said it was a friend of his family. Like he said, she was like his little sister almost. Like he had taught her how to swim and stuff like that. She was 17, and it was like 4 people in the car on a windy road. And if you're ever the roads where I'm from are fucked.
Yeah.
I'm from the mountains. And so the guy took a corner too fast and flipped it a bunch of times. Thankfully, only one girl died, but that was the one that was my friend's friend.
Yeah.
There was one girl that the injury was so like horrifying to me. Are you squeamish?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I won't detail
100% homophobic. So keep going. Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, are you sure? Because this one's pretty bad. This one got me.
I'll be okay. I'll just think about puppies. Go on.
So her scalp got split.
Okay.
And pulled up.
Oh Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what's happened since then. I know a bunch of them were in intensive care, but that one. Another one was a guy I used to work with. His wife got hit by a trucker who was like on drugs, and her car went up in flames.
Oof.
Yeah, so she burned alive, and like you hear stories like that all the time, but when it's somebody that I didn't know her, but I knew her husband.
Yeah.
So hearing that, I was like, oh. Like
Yeah,
it
it hits
so much
way too close
real.
to home.
Yeah,
Yeah. Ugh,
yeah.
yeah.
So let's find happy topics. Although I went, your story about the terrorist attack reminded me of a book because you were talking about how it made you feel very empathetic towards them.
Yeah.
Um, there's this guy Majid Nawaz. He wrote this book called Radical. It's his memoir.
Mm.
I highly recommend it to anybody to read. It's basically his whole story of how growing up as like a Pakistani in England, and like he experienced a lot of racism and attacks from like neo-Nazi groups, and that radicalized him, and he wound up joining not a terrorist organization, but a group that went to different countries and tried to establish like a caliphate, like put everything under Sharia law, and like how he was a recruiter for that, and then he wound up in prison for 5 years in Egypt right after 9/11, and while he was in prison, it changed. He met another guy that changed his thinking. I can't go the whole story on
Right.
here, but it was such an incredible read
Mm.
hearing his story. But that one reinforces the empathy thing because like somebody who was so radicalized and then
Yeah.
is completely out of it now.
Yeah. I mean, like I didn't for the next few days. I couldn't speak. I couldn't bring myself to um make any kind of audible connection to anyone.
Is that the accident or the attack?
That's the attack.
Yeah.
Because 2 days after the attack, the friends and I, that I was with at the bar. Actually, this is another thing about that night is that I was with two men, and since we were like the women were put up against the wall, we were separated. So I didn't know if they were hurt or not. They didn't know where I was because for a few hours, like since the like police came in and everything, no one could move. And if they saw you like reaching for their phone, they would like arrest you. So like everyone had to stay still. So for hours, we didn't know what the condition of each other was. And they had decided, like after we got out of the bar and everything, they had decided that we were going to go to the benefit concert that Ariana Grande that she put on for Manchester. So I just, since I couldn't bring myself to talk, I just went along with it. So I was at that concert, and just I'm gonna get emotional.
Okay.
The outpouring of love and support that either people that weren't there, people that were there, like witnesses, people that were working at the venue, like everyone was just, it was palpable.
Mm.
Oh my God, such a powerful, just outcome from something so horrible. So.
Says a lot about us as humans.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting thing about us. Like we can be so apathetic to everything that happens in the world until it happens,
Yeah.
and
If
then all of a
it's too
sudden
far
it
away,
takes
it'll
back.
never happen here. Yeah.
Yeah, like you figure we've been at war for 18 years at this point,
Yeah. Yeah.
technically. But like we here in America, we don't feel it unless you have a family member that's over there.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
I do, and even that.
yeah. Like most of the men that are in my like more immediate family, like my dad was in the army, a few uncles were in the Navy, grandparents, everything like that. Like they're all military based. Steven, my brother, actually went into the Marines, like That's actually how we found out that he had epilepsy. We didn't know what it was when he was growing up.
Oh,
So we didn't know how to treat him. He would always be getting MRIs and CAT scans and everything, and they were like, we don't know what this is.
really?
Yeah. And there were a couple of times where I was present for some of his seizures. Like when he got his driver's license, my mom was beside herself. um, and this happened on 2 occasions that I know of anyway, because I was there, unfortunately, where he had an episode while he was driving.
Oh.
And like I could just see it in his eyes that I wasn't dealing with Steven anymore. Like it's not like he's having like a foaming at the mouth seizure. Like he just goes out into a trance where he starts talking to people that aren't there, hallucinating, things like that. Like these are the kinds of seizures that he would have. Um, there was one time where like I was very young, and my mom was boiling corn on the stove, and he would stick his hand, like he tried to stick his hand into the pot. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, like things like that. And like for years we were like, how do we deal with this? Like, what do we do? What do we call this? And then he enlisted into the Marines. They were testing him, and that's how we found out that it was epilepsy. And then he just changed his entire diet. Like, I don't know. I need to ask. Like, that's gonna be one of my episodes. Like, how did you do that? Because he's not a medication person. Like, neither am I for personal reasons.
Yeah.
But I just like there's no grasp on any of those instances because we didn't know when they would come. There was no warning signs. They would just come out of nowhere. And actually, one of our cousin's daughters has epilepsy now. Like, she's being actually medically treated for it.
Okay.
Because of like there was such similarities between what she was doing and Steven's history, where like her mother saw enough of a similarity where she was like, okay, I know what this is. We need to get her tested for epilepsy, and then that's what it was, and then now she's getting treated for it. So, but she's like 13.
It's just crazy to me that the doctors couldn't figure that out.
Yeah.
That he had epilepsy.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's interesting that he cured it with his diet, though.
I mean, holistically, like he just changed his entire, his whole, the way that he lived his life, the way he carried himself changed. And
yeah. I know of another incident with that, or instance of that, is this guy's a kind of a controversial figure, Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a clinical psychologist. He's been in the news, and he's become very popular online lately. But his daughter, actually both sides of his family, him and his wife, have histories of depression and autoimmune disorders.
Mm-hmm.
So it all coalesced into their daughter really badly. And she had, like, such bad arthritis from such a young age. Like, she had, like, ankle and knee replacements by, like, the time she was a teenager.
Wow.
Like, it was that bad of, like, arthritis.
Wow.
But she eventually started experimenting with her diet, and now she started cutting everything out. She's a carnivore now. She only eats steak, and it's cured it.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, and the same thing with Jordan.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing with her father too. He tried it, and he's had a lot of things.
That's
It's one of those very controversial diet things. I don't personally have any interest in trying it, but
yeah, I saw such a change in myself when I stopped eating red meat. So for that change to happen is incredible. But
Well, it's all different body types. There's no hard science behind it. Is the problem?
Exactly. Like, how would you associate that with yourself, except if you're trying everything, and you're like, okay, this works, this doesn't work, but it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, But with the epilepsy, I mean, that's getting cured by CBD most of the time nowadays.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, do I want to bring this up? I have been on CBD oil for a few months.
Okay.
And
there's nothing to not bring up about that. It's not psychoactive.
Well, I know, but it's the reason why I don't know about yet.
It's up your discretion.
Yeah. But yeah, like since I've started that, because I'm such an advocate for non-medicine. Like, don't touch medicine ever. I mean, like, I'm a masseuse. I know how to treat a headache or any kind of like pain. Like, it's all treatable within yourself. Like, you don't have to add any medication to your body in order to get something to go away. But for like CBD and everything, I have been seeing like multiple positive changes within my health, even like the just my whole energy changed once I started taking that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting what's going on with that.
Yeah.
I haven't. What?
My battery.
Oh, light. Oh, we got a brief bit of light too. Now it's really dark and creepy. Oh, that was a terrible. The way that the screen froze, it was terrifying.
This just turned into a horror movie, folks. Oh my god!
It froze in such a way that it made it look like you were like a negative version of yourself. And those are always creepy.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got like a notification like you're at 20%. I was like, oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, you can last a little longer with that.
Yeah. I just don't want it to like die out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm on the side of I'm in the in between. Like because I don't have a problem with holistic stuff. It's just when I'm not on the pro getting completely rid of medicine at the same time, like clinical medicine, even though I have a lot of issues with the pharmaceutical industry for sure, because it's very corrupt, and I feel so conflicted about a lot of it, because like I feel like there's a lot of crap that gets in on the holistic side, like what is it, what's the thing where they do it's like a tiny portion of it in like diluted in water. Homeopathy.
Okay.
That's the one I have an issue with. But then like there's also the doctors that are just prescribing prescription drugs like candy, like for like pain meds, like, you know, Xanax and whatever. That's the thing that drives me nuts too. It's like they're getting people hooked on pills.
Yeah.
And
actually, the guy that did my feather tattoo on my arm, his brother got addicted to painkillers because of I think his dentist prescribed something, and then he just got hooked on it. And actually, they were living together for a few years, and this brother he basically made the other brother bankrupt because he was stealing from him to pay for his addictions. Yeah, and I actually got that whole story while he was doing my my feather. I was like, wow, okay.
Didn't ask for this.
Yeah, that was pretty intense, yeah. But yeah, like he's on the road to recovery now, thank God. But
that's a huge problem, and I'm all for legalization, but like there's this big something needs to be done about the way that things are prescribed. because it's getting people hooked. So this is an entertainment podcast.
Talk about everything under the sun. Yeah.
That's fine. I don't organize these. These aren't. I run these more in like a Joe Rogan fashion. Like it's kind of whatever happens, happens. So yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we could start closing out then. We're at about an hour.
Okay.
That's how long I usually do. So where should I send people?
You can send them to my Instagram page. It's Laura Bugge _. And then my podcast Instagram page is Sway Element Podcast.
All right. And so when are we doing that one? Because I know you're gonna have me on, but
yes. I was thinking because I have 4 people for like set up for like June into July. Gonna be
okay,
more
so
like
sometime in
cancer based.
July. Uh-oh. You froze. You're completely frozen. Okay, people, this is awkward silence. I'm gonna try to fill it and hope that the glitch ends. Oh.
Okay, there we go. I was like, oh, he's not talking anymore. It started glitching when I was in the basement too.
Yeah. All right. So you were saying in July probably we'll do it.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. And well then hopefully I can help you with setting up your stuff. Yeah. I don't know if you got that equipment yet, but.
Yeah, because actually my friend Dan, a few days after we did our recording, he moved to Denver. So I was like, oh shit, we gotta do this now, because we had been planning on him like being on an episode. And then I just happened to mention it one day, and he's like, yeah, so I'm going to Denver in a few days. And I was like, shit, okay, well, come over. We'll record, and then I'll just post it whenever I start my podcast and everything. So.
Did you get the equipment yet, or are you wait?
Not
so you're
yet.
just gonna do it cell phone style for now?
I'm trying a few different things, so I'll see what works best for now. And then go that route when the day comes.
It doesn't need to be perfect quality.
Yeah.
Mine still are. I still have a lot of technical investing to do in the video side of things.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I will see you whenever we do that podcast.
Yes. Now, did you want to Skype for that one again, or because I might actually, by the time I do it, I might actually be out in Brooklyn, so it's up to you.
Let me know when you're in Brooklyn next, and then we'll figure it out. Or we can do it over Skype. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Yeah, I'll figure that out. Because I have a guest planned who lives in Boston, so I'm gonna have to definitely do this. So.
Yeah.
Convenient.
The Skype thing it's annoying, but it works.
It does its job.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to stop the recording. Bye to the people.
Bye.